Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the New Worlds podcast at Capistrano Valley Christian Schools. My name is Mr. Jasper. I am the educational technologist here at the school, and once again, I am joined by Mr. Mark Robertson, who's our English teacher, who has been leading these students through the study of the book Brave New World. Today's episode is a reflection on the novel done by students Halle and Hannah. Their episode is called Cheap versus Deep Happiness, and I want to ask Mr. Robertson here, can you tell us a little bit about what this episode is about?
Yeah, Halle and Hannah think about ways in which the novel satirizes a culture, community without any real depth. They also think about how, in many ways, ours is also a superficial culture that is longing for meaning, deep relationships, and good conversation. This theme is so near and dear to my heart, and I so love how they handled it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Robertson. At this time, we are going to transition to Halle and Hannah's episode. So everyone, here is Cheap versus Deep Happiness. Thanks for listening.
Hey guys, it's Hannah
and Halle,
and today we'll be talking about the deep and superficial found in the book Brave New World.
Hannah's role today will be talking about the evidence we found in Brave New World and any articles and books that we found that relate to our topic.
And Halle's role will be to talk about songs and poetry and podcasts that also relate to our topic.
Hannah, would you like to start us off today?
I would love to. Okay, so I'm going to start off by talking about the Brave New World evidence we found that relate to superficial happiness. The first quote I found was, "What fun would it be," he thought, "if one didn't have to think about happiness." And the other quote is, "Actual happiness always looks pretty squalid in comparison with the overcompensations for misery. And of course, stability isn't nearly as spectacular as instability. And being contented has none of the glamour of a good fight against misfortune. None of the picturesqueness of a struggle with temptation or a fatal overthrow by passion or doubt. Happiness is never grand." Superficial happiness is a big topic in Brave New World. The characters are basically in an emotional jail and don't know how to express real human emotion or even know what real human emotion is. This relates to the deep part of our podcast because the characters didn't know how to express the real human emotions towards one another because they weren't allowed to express the emotions they felt towards one another. This also ties in with our superficial culture because nowadays it feels like no one is truly real. It feels like everyone is hiding behind a mask or is scared to show their true self. Nowadays, people don't really care about getting to know someone. They just want to know the basics of someone to avoid conflict between the two. Halle, would you like to talk about songs and poetry?
Yeah. One of the quotes that we found, or actually Mr. Robinson found for us, is, "Superficiality is the curse of our age. The doctrine of instant satisfaction is a primary spiritual problem. The desperate need today is not for a greater number of intelligent people or gifted people, but for deep people." After reading this quote, the part that stuck with me is at the end when it says, "The desperate need today is not for a greater number of intelligent people or gifted people, but for deep people." This reminded me of our class discussion today when Mr. Robinson brought up that intelligent people are rewarded and not like the deep people. And what I mean by that is that people rather talk about like math or science or like someone famous instead of having like an actual conversation where it's about real life topics. And it just seems that everyone's just scared of getting deep with each other. And if people were to have a deep conversation, it's not going to last very long. And like they probably just go one in ear and out the other. And for a song, we found "Pursuit of Happiness" by Kid Cudi, and we're going to play a little bit of that right now. Hannah and I think that this song symbolizes that he's on the pursuit of happiness by discovering the effects of drugs and how they mess with your emotions. Hannah, would you like to add anything?
I would love to. In our society today, it seems that like partying and going out and doing illegal things is more important than sitting at home and wanting to build a connection with the close ones around you. I've met some people in my life that did experience with drugs and thought it would fix their problems, but honestly, it made their problems way worse. They became self-reliant on drugs and didn't know how to function without them. It's honestly difficult seeing how teens went from being innocent children to being crazy party people who do all these things, but when you become close to these people, all you want to do is help them. But it's hard to help this person when they don't really know what's going on, what they're feeling. All they know is, oh, I need this and this and this, and this will fix my problems, instead of talking to people for help. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about articles and books that I found relate to the topic of deep and superficiality. The first book that came into my mind was The Great Gatsby by Fitzgerald. I really did think that this book really does dig deep into the superficiality effects of money and what money does to a person, especially when you have a lot of it. Gatsby throws these huge, elegant parties for the people that he loves, but if you really dig deep into the novel, you realize that he doesn't throw the parties for himself, but he throws them for the people around him. To me, it seems like Gatsby is wanting to see other people pursue their own route of happiness instead of him really digging deep into himself and finding his own pursuit of happiness. What I thought was interesting was when Daisy Buchanan was weaving at Gatsby's beautiful shirts. This part kind of reminded me of the fact that it is the little things that can provide happiness or shock to someone, even just with little things. Like with Daisy crying at Gatsby's beautiful shirt, she was just crying because they were so beautiful and so wonderfully made. The whole book does evolve around superficial happiness with money. And I think Gatsby can also tie into today's society, because today we're surrounded with people like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, who these people created inventions and contributed to our society with technology, but they have this great deal of money, but they still do good in the world. Halle, would you like to talk about podcasts?
Yeah, of course, Hannah. A podcast show that we found called Anything Goes by famous influencer Emma Chamberlain has a couple episodes that talk about the superficiality in our society today. One of the episodes, called Quality Over Quantity, talks about how we think quality is better, but quantity can also negatively impact us too. We think we want more, but honestly, it can end up hurting us in the end. Another episode is called A Happy and Healthy Life, and the description about it is, who doesn't want to be happy? There are a lot of things in life that can get us down or have a negative impact on our emotions, but it doesn't have to be that way. Emma is going through all the characteristics of how to create happiness in our lives, from building meaningful relationships to limiting our time on social media, and gives some examples of things we can do to bring a little more joy to your day. And the last episode that we found was Rock Bottom. In this episode, she talks about her own experiences, how she had some dark clouds over her head, and she explains to us how you can find your self-worth again and why hitting rock bottom isn't the end.
And that comes to an end of our podcast episode. Thanks for listening!
New Worlds is a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools podcast network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. For more information, please visit cvcs.org. And finally, if you have any questions or comments about our podcasts, please email podcasts@cvcs.org. Thank you again so much for listening, and be sure to subscribe to the feed to stay up to date with us.